Welcome into Sportsmemo's betting podcast for August 5th. It's Monday. That means NFL betting podcast with our man Teddy Covers. Teddy, welcome into the podcast. How you doing?
Yeah, Drew, this is not just any Monday. Okay, this is the first Monday of 2019 that we've got a regular slate of games to look at. I know they're preseason games. We got a full slate of 16 games this weekend. And frankly, I know there's lots of baseball bettors out there, but football is king. To be able to talk NFL and real games in the NFL this week, I know there are a lot of bettors out there that are excited just like we are.
Absolutely, Teddy. And you're right. It starts off this week just because NFLX, NFL preseason, is a beatable little subsector of the sport. You've had success in the past. And if people get your NFL full season or college football NFL, the combo, they do include the preseason all the way through the Super Bowl. No extra charges later. And guys, we got a podcast coupon code here. Teddy949, that's TEDDY 949 at checkout. You can get his full season college football, NFL full season. It includes the preseason as well, and we'll throw in the rest of his MLB full season, all for $949 using the podcast coupon code Teddy949. Teddy, you're talking NFLX. That's abbreviation for the preseason betting here. What strategies are you mainly focusing on right now comparative to the full season, regular season? Any differences here between the preseason and the full season you want to throw out?
There's 100 differences. We'll go through some of them right here. But first, real quick, I want to make sure with that promo code, note, this is no bait and switch. There's nothing more to buy. You will legitimately get every play I release in football, college football and the NFL. College football through the national championship game, NFL through the Super Bowl. You get the prop package, you get the season win report, you get the preseason. This isn't one of those, buy this, but then we're going to charge you something more later. That's not how it works at sportsmemo.com. When it comes to the preseason and betting in the preseason, the number one piece of advice I can give you, and we'll go through some of these, but the number one piece of advice is, for God's sakes, bet facts, not opinions. Opinions are for the regular season. In the regular season, hey, I think this team's a whole lot better than that team, and they're only laying 3.5. The price is right. Boom. In the preseason, it has nothing to do with how good the teams are going to be in the regular season. You will often see in the preseason, as long as it's not week 3 where the starters are going to be involved for a full half, but in week 1, week 2, week 4 of the preseason, you'll often see the weaker of the two teams favored. It's not unusual. It's not unheard of. In fact, it's commonplace because the teams that are looking at big seasons, they're not worried about getting their starters ample time. They're worried about building out roster depth. And the weaker teams tend to be worried more about filling out those starters roles. So you'll often see the weaker teams favored over the stronger team in the preseason. You've got to be betting the facts of that particular matchup. And of course, that comes from, I guess, point 2 is read your local sources. For God's sakes, of all the times you don't want national news, you don't want the ESPN feed, you don't want the Fox, you don't want the NBC, that's for preseason. I want the beat writers. I want to know who's going to be playing after halftime of these games. Point spread outcome gets determined after halftime. We saw it, some games will be 35-3 at the half. Those are the exception rather than the rule. Most of the games in the preseason will be decided against the spread in the third and fourth quarters. And you have to get good information about who's going to be on the field in the third and fourth quarter of these games. The preseason, you can do that because the coaches don't have to use coach speak. They will tell you their game plans. They will tell you how long they're going to use your starters. They will tell you how long they're going to use the backups. They will tell you, the coordinators will tell you what their game plan is for the upcoming week. None of that happens in the regular season. It all happens in August. And if you spend the time and go through the local beat writers, you'll find all kinds of info that oftentimes is not appropriately factored into the betting markets for any given game.
And Teddy, one thing that pops in my head, because I do that a ton in college football, especially in the beginning of the season, do you notice some beat writers are better than others in terms of they'll give you a little bit more and they understand football a little bit more instead of just kind of being a good writer that gets the job? Are there certain beat writers you kind of follow a little bit more closely than others?
Absolutely. Of course there are. But if you don't have a broad database of beat writers and spend time reading what they write every day, you're not going to, it takes time to develop the nuances. Hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. Hey, this guy makes good predictions. Hey, this guy makes bad predictions. I've got a spreadsheet for every team in college football and every team in the NFL, and all I do is throw cut and paste notes in there, and every week I look at those notes from Verena. Oh, I remember that. Oh, I thought I wrote that down 3 weeks ago, and I forgot it, but now it's here. Keeping track of the information in appropriate ways is something you have to do as well. But certainly, when it comes to evaluating the beat writers, yes, there's some of that is a piece of the equation, but you can't evaluate until you have the beat writers that you're looking at. And then, gradually, over the course of the season, this guy knows what he's talking about. I just value his opinion. He thought they were going to step up here, and they came out flat as a pancake. I can't trust his predictions anymore, et cetera, et cetera. You get a sense of which guys are actually have a pulse on their finger on the pulse of the team and which guys don't. But you're not necessarily going to know that at the start of the process. That's something that takes time to develop as to which writers you trust, which ones not so much.
Yeah, good point there, Teddy. Teddy, what about betting in the preseason? Is it something you look to kind of, when the openers come out, jump on it? Or are you okay with kind of seeing the numbers, settling in, taking more time to kind of read these beat writers, get any information you can, and you're okay laying bets down Thursday, Friday, Saturday-ish?
So we're going to talk about the 5 biggest line moves for these NFL preseason Week 1 games in just a few minutes. And in that discussion, we're going to talk about who's betting what and why. When I'm betting the preseason, I'm betting for, we're going through some of the reasons now, but, I'm betting because the information is telling me and the coach speak is telling me that Team A has an edge, or maybe Team B doesn't have an edge and they're the favorite. It's all about the information. So when it comes to the lines come out on Monday, Sunday night, Monday morning for the next week's games, there's not a ton of info out there. The line moves that we've seen already, every one of them, the 5 that we're going to talk about, they're all knee-jerk for a reason. I tend to make my bets as soon as I find the information I'm looking for, I'm going to get involved. If that's Monday morning, I'll do it. If it's an hour before tip-off or the kickoff, I'll do it then. It's just a matter of when's the info available and has the line moved too much already before that info becomes available. But I'm really focused on betting facts, not opinions in August. And the guys who are betting right off the openers, they're betting coach trends, they're betting opinions, they're not betting information as much as I like to do this time of year. So, and make a short answer to your question long, the answer is no, I don't do a lot of betting right off the get-go when it comes to the preseason. I'll bet as soon as I find the information I'm looking for, I'll get involved. But that doesn't tend to happen when the line's open.
Teddy, I got so many questions for you for NFL preseason, man. It's just a fascinating kind of subsector to bet here, and I do think that it's an advantage, and I do think that it's a beatable little subsector here. And guys, make sure to check out sportsmemo.com. I'm actually going to put up a special package here to get handicappers NFLX, which is just their preseason. However, I do want to remind you, if you do get their full season, it includes the preseason. And if you get Teddy's full season, it will include his NFL season over-under wins package, which was just released. And great analysis in there, man. Very, very detailed. It will help you throughout the full season. You can grab that for $199 at sportsmemo.com. Or you can just grab the full season here, especially with this coupon code TEDDY949 at checkout. Get all of his NFL, all of his college football, the season win total package, the preseason, and we're going to throw in the rest of his MLB as well down the stretch, and that's TEDDY949 at checkout. Teddy, we're going to talk about what's moved, but do want to ask one more question here in the preseason betting. In your opinion, is there a certain type of profile you look to bet on a team, maybe, you know, as far as maybe a more of a mobile quarterback, because, you know, teams are kind of meshing their offensive lines together, and so it might actually help more so in the preseason to get out of trouble than in the regular season with a full front there, 5 guys that know each other? Is there the type of profile where, you know, teams that aren't projected to be very good in the regular season look to bet more on them in the preseason and fade the good teams like, you know, the Patriots, or maybe bet on the good teams because they'll roll through the preseason as well? Is there a certain type of profile that you find yourself kind of gravitating towards in the preseason?
No.
Okay.
Flat out no. Every game is about information. Okay? I start this, I mean, and admittedly, you have biases based on what coaches have done in the past. That being said, the primary bias that I have for preseason is what's the info telling me to bet? You know, who's got cluster injuries? You know, we haven't talked about cluster injuries yet. That, to me, of all the factors, of all the things you want to look for in August, a team with and cluster injuries, that means one position group having multiple guys hurt. You know, you got a handful of offensive linemen down or a handful of defensive linemen down, or your first string and your second string and 2 third-string cornerbacks are out, or your wide receivers are hurt. When these situations occur in August, coaches will do just about anything to avoid more injuries at those positions. That definitely affects their game plan. So cluster injuries is something that you have to be aware of far more than you have to be aware of, you know, how good is this team? Or what's this profile that I'm looking for? Yeah, this is the profile I'm looking for. I'm looking for a team that's really banged up at a given position and can't have a normal game plan. Remember also, there's a whole different nuance from week 1 to week 2 to week 3 to week 4. Week 1, there's not going to be a player on the field in the second quarter whose name you recognize. You know what I mean? I mean, it's really a battle of backups and third stringers and, you know, guys angling for a roster spot. Week 2, you'll see some dramatic differences between coaches that are going to play their starters close to a half and coaches that are going to play them a couple series and then rest them. And then the second stringers will go against opposing third stringers and they'll have the edge throughout the game. That'll happen week 2. In a handful of contests, you'll see the lines move like crazy in those games. In week 3, well, that's the one week where regular season opinions do matter because the coaches are going to play their starters usually into the second half, sometimes 3 full quarters in week 3 of the preseason. That's the game that mirrors the regular season most, but beware, know who's playing in the fourth. Some coaches will put in their second stringers, some coaches will put in the dregs as they fight for that last roster spot. So that's something to be aware of. And week 4, look, week 4 is hard. There's a lot of randomness in week 4, but certainly it's the kind of game where, hey, you talked about the mobile quarterbacks, and I haven't even gotten the mobile quarterbacks because one of the things I want to talk about, the suckers are focusing on starting quarterback battles, okay? Oh, the starting quarterback battle here in week 1, that doesn't matter. In week 3, that might matter. In week 1 and week 2, what you're most interested in is the battles for the backup quarterback job. That's when you're like, all right, here we have 2 quarterbacks with motivation, with something to prove, who are going to get chances to showcase, and they're going to go against second and third tier defenders. That's where you can really make money with the quarterback battles. And you talked about the mobile QBs. There's nothing you'd rather have with a third string lineup than a quarterback that can run. You know, Joe Webb's the classic example, a guy who you never trust in the regular season, but you know what? You get him in August, and you see it all the time in the preseason. You know, it's the fourth quarter, you're down by 1 score, it's 3rd and 8, and all the receivers are covered. The mobile quarterbacks, they scramble a first down right there. It happens all the time, and then you get a new set of downs, and the drive keeps going. The non-mobile quarterbacks throw it into coverage. You know, nobody's open. It gets picked. It gets knocked down, and they punt. It makes a huge difference if your third-string QB can run out of pressure versus if he's stuck in the pocket. And that's absolutely something that I look for when betting in August.
Teddy, just listen to you talk about it, man. We're a couple weeks away from college football. We got a full slate of NFL preseason coming up on Thursday, August 8th. We're going to talk some games here. And just
give me 2 more. I got more points to make, though. I got more strategies for preseason. I keep saying I'm done, and I keep on getting more.
Okay, I got to lead you into it, though, Teddy.
All right. So.
All right. We got Washington, Cleveland. We're going to talk about Atlanta, Miami, Jacksonville, Baltimore. And we're also going to talk one on Saturday as well. LA Rams, Oakland Raiders. Teddy, I'll throw it back to you, man. What other points did you want to throw out to the listeners?
All right. Last two. All right. I talked about cluster injuries as being something you have to look for. The other thing you want to look for, what teams are going to blitz. Okay.
Yes.
The teams that are blitzing will annihilate second and third string offensive line. And when you have a coordinator that says, yeah, we're going to try our blitz package this week, and the opposing team's like, yeah, we have this third string QB who can't run, that's your bet on situation right there. So I'm always looking for coaches' quotes involving blitzing, and the coaches that blitz, the defense coordinators that blitz tend to be bet on in August. Last but not least, well, I guess it's a two-parter because it's 2 points. And I think I've talked about this before, but I have to keep talking about it. Did you watch the Hall of Fame game?
I did, yeah.
Did you watch the line move on the Hall of Fame game? It got, line bet up to 2.5, bet up to 3.
Yeah.
And then bet right back to 2.5.
Yeah.
Because someone out there is like, 3 is a key number. I want to have 3 in my pocket in the preseason. 3 is not a key number in August. All right? The key number in August is 1. Because when you're down by 7 and you score the game-tying touchdown, you will not kick the extra point. You will go for 2. If you're down by 3, you will not kick the field goal. You will go for it on 4th and 14, like they
That's
saw,
what we saw
in the Hall of Fame game. They're not trying to go to overtime, which means you'll see more 2-point conversions at the end of games instead of making moves to get into a position to tie it. They want to win it or lose it. So be aware. The key numbers: 1, 1.5, 2, not 3, not 7. And to go along with that, in the preseason, look, every game has a favorite, or most of them do. And you're always like, well, I want to be betting on this team. I want to be betting on this team. If you're laying more than a field goal in the preseason, there better be a bet against to go with that bet on. Bet on, not enough to lay more than a field goal at this time of the year. That's just the nature of August football.
Great point there. And how about that Hall of Fame game, Teddy? The move all one way, and it ended up cashing. However, grading that out, it was probably wrong, correct?
Well, it won it was a coin flip game, and when you convert on 4th and 14 to get the game-winning touchdown with under 2 minutes to play, you're going to cash those tickets. Certainly not a great result for the books, but there was buyback. That's the whole point on that. Mm-hmm. It got bet up to 3 from -1 to +3, and then back to 2.5. There were still people out there taking the key number of 3, which is not key in August.
Teddy, great breakdown so far. We got the coupon code Teddy949 at checkout for Teddy Covers NFL college football full season package, and of course that includes his NFL season over win total report, the preseason, all the way through the Super Bowl, college football all the way through the national championship, no extra charges later. And if you type in that coupon code Teddy949 at checkout, we will throw in the rest of his MLB season as well. Side note, you can use Teddy949 on my full season NFL college football as well. That's Drew Martin's NFL and college football full season. Teddy, we got 4 games we're going to run through real quick. 257, 258, Washington at Cleveland, talking the Redskins versus the Cleveland Browns here. We got Baker Mayfield chugging beers. Not sure if you saw it, Teddy, in the Cleveland Indians game. Thought that was kind of funny. I'll throw it to you here. We got pretty much a
sparked the rally, dude. They scored 5 runs right after he did that.
I know. No, it was cool, and he bit into it too, which is like the next level type of shotgun beer thing as well. But I thought that was pretty cool. We got pick'em price -1, depending where you're shopping. Only a 35 total here, Teddy. What are you thinking?
Well, yeah. I mean, when you look at all of these totals are sitting 33, 34.5. What do we got? 37, I think, is the high for week 1, which tells you what we should expect this week. There's going to be a lot of games that look a lot like what we saw in the Hall of Fame game with backup QBs, third-string QBs, fourth-string QBs, behind third-string offensive lines, and the receivers don't know the routes, and, you get some ugly football at times in these ball games. all that being said, where's the money coming? What are the knee-jerk moves right off the openers? And we got 4 of them to talk about. The first one is money for the Redskins. Why are they betting the Redskins? Well, the Redskins have a QB battle. Bingo. End of argument. That's the money for Washington. They're like, Redskins are having a QB battle. Let's bet on Washington. And that's where the money came on the Redskins, with obviously a team that has issues with, in terms of a depth chart, Washington's depth chart more uncertain than most at the QB position. They don't know who's going to be the 2. They don't know who's going to be the 3. The markets say that's bet on for week 1 in August. And frankly, I don't disagree with that assessment at all. Cleveland, a team with nothing to prove this August in comparison to what they've had to prove in recent years.
All right, Teddy, we got 3 more games left. Also a question here, Teddy, something that's popped to mind, and, I've known that this has gone on, but not to the extent that I've kind of noticed it this year and last year. Seeing like Atlanta, Miami. I've noticed the Falcons and Dolphins, just because, I've lived in Atlanta and I grew up in South Florida. They play almost every year in the preseason. Preseason is pretty regional, right?
Yeah, there are a lot of teams that play regularly against one another in the preseason, and then sometimes you see random games in there. But most teams tend to avoid long travel if they can. And you do see the Jets play the Giants every year, the Eagles play the Steelers every year, et cetera, et cetera. This is comparable in that regard.
Yeah, no, it's just an interesting kind of tidbit here. So you never really see a East Coast team going west or vice versa, right?
Not much, no.
Interesting. Okay, we got let's talk it. The Falcons and Miami Dolphins. This one in South Florida, 3.5 or 4, depending where you're shopping. There is pretty much widely available on both numbers right now. 35.5 or 36. I'm seeing as the total, Teddy.
Yeah, and Atlanta, Miami opened 2.5, 3. But what's the knee-jerk move here? The knee-jerk is the markets are fading the Falcons. Again, these initial line moves off the openers in week 1 of the preseason, they can only be knee jerks. So they're betting Miami. They're betting Washington at a QB battle. All right, they're betting Miami. Why? Because the Falcons are now, I think, 0-11 straight up, 0-11 ATS. Their last 11 preseason games. It's a straight fade of Dan Quinn. It was clear Atlanta didn't care on the Hall of Fame game, and the markets are saying they don't care here either. And of course, the Dolphins too have a battle for the starting QB job. The market's expecting the Dolphins. So, I talked about if you want to lay more than a field goal, you better have a bet against and a bet on. This, Dolphins with the QB battle, that's bet on. Ravens with the bad track record, that's bet against. This is one of those games where, all right, maybe it makes sense to lay the price, although if you haven't done it already, you've by far missed the best of the number.
Teddy, we got Jacksonville, Baltimore up next. Baltimore -4 at home. Looks like 32 the total for the Jags and the Ravens.
Yeah, and of course, this is what's the knee-jerk here? The knee-jerk here is
fade Jacksonville.
John Harbaugh is the opposite of Dan Quinn.
Okay.
The Ravens have a strong preseason track record consistently. Harbaugh cares about these games. They've been winning games in August on a regular basis, and it's all bet on Baltimore. It's really I haven't seen any bet against for the Jags in this spot. It's just the markets are saying let's pay attention to the Ravens in August, and at -4, and I'm seeing signs they could even go higher, 4 with juice in a lot of spots. They're certainly not seeing the type of point spreads for Baltimore in this game as you had while Baltimore has compiled their strong ATS run in the Harbaugh era. Certainly not for week 1. This is a very high point spread. You don't see a lot of 4s, 4.5s.
Guys, we're talking with Teddy Covers at Teddy_Covers on Twitter. I am at Twitter at Drew Martin Bets. Feel free to throw any questions out at us on Twitter. Love to know if people are listening to the pod, what you're liking, and what you're looking to bet. Happy to answer any questions on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets or at Teddy_Covers. 1 game left here, Teddy. And guys, remember the coupon code Teddy949. Get all of his NFL, all of his college football, everything included for just $949. Teddy949 at checkout for his NFL college football full season service. Teddy, we got the LA Rams, Oakland Raiders up next. Raiders -5, -5.5, 36.5 the total.
Well, and this is everything to do with there's a couple factors involved here. This number, I'm surprised at how high it's gotten. However, It got to 6, and we're just now seeing the buyback. They're bringing it down to plus 5.5. So we have seen market resistance at 6, which is, again, as high as a week 1 line of the preseason as you'll ever see. Raiders, A, coming off an awful season. B, Gruden seems to care about these games. And C, they have 3 veteran quarterbacks. In terms of Carr, Glennon and Peterman. Glennon and Peterman are expected to get ample time here. That's not the case for the Rams, who the markets think don't give a shit. I don't disagree with that assessment. I've seen nothing from L.A. that shows any sense of urgency this August, and it's likely to be what Allen and Wolford for extended stretches for the Rams after the first few series. That's not exactly a bet-on combo.
All right, Teddy. Hey, and we can't talk Oakland Raiders without going over a little bit here. As far as this season goes, are all of their games in Oakland? Do you know?
No, they play 8 road games. And they also have a game in London.
Okay, so they got a game. There's no games in Mexico City or anything like that.
They have the one game in Chicago. That's in London. It's not in Mexico City. So they lost the game to London. They have 7 home games.
Okay.
They have 2 right off the bat, and then the rest of the year they only have 5 more.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and they'll be in Vegas. All things are go for next season, right? That's
the plan. And if you watch the stadium construction. If you watch some of those videos, man, one thing Vegas does, we build stuff fast. We really do. That stadium is flying up, right now, and they're talking it's going to be ready by next August. So, this will, in theory, be their last year in Oakland.
All right, good stuff, Teddy. Like always, guys, coupon code Teddy949 for his NFL and college football full season service. Teddy, anything else I missed?
I'm sure there's tons of stuff we missed, but the good news is that we'll get to do it again. This won't be the last time you and I talk on air, Drew, but the bottom line is thank you so much, really, for taking time out of your busy day to spend with us here in the Sportsmemo pod. Obviously, you hear the enthusiasm. I'm pumped. Drew's pumped. It's that time of year. We're supposed to be getting pumped. Football just around the corner. We'll have a full slate on Thursday night.
It's right around the corner. And Teddy covers. You guys can mark it in, pencil it in, pen it in. Mondays on the Sports Memo podcast, NFL edition. So stay tuned for that, guys. Best of luck with your bets. We'll be back tomorrow talking CFL, every game on the board. Best of luck with your bets.